Hi, my name is Mrs. Johnson, and I'm a first grade teacher at Sunnyview Primary School. I am so happy that I get to work with all of you today. Before we get started, here are some tips just in case you need help hearing or in case you need help understanding the video. First, you can turn on closed captioning if you have that available. You can adjust the playback speed to slow down the video. After you have listened at the slower speed, increase and listen again. If these options are not available, consider watching short clips, then pause, listen, and watch again. Next, to help you better understand the video, ask someone in your home to watch with you. Stop often and talk to your partner about what you heard and understood. If there is a text or story associated with the video, read the text first and identify difficult words before watching the video. To check understanding at the end, you can write a sentence or create a drawing or chart that you think shows the information in the video. You could ask your partner if they agree with what you created. And again, my name is Mrs. Johnson. I'm a first grade teacher at Sunnyview Primary. Are you ready to read, talk, and write with me today? Today, we are going to practice phonics, read high frequency words, and read to answer a question in writing. First, we're going to practice some phonics skills. Let's review the vowel team, EA, that Ms. Helton did with you last week. I see a little boy eating. I know that EA makes the sound E like in eat. I also see a loaf of bread. I also know that EA can make the sound like in bread. Let's look at another vowel pattern. Let's look at Y as a vowel. Y can make the sound E like in funny. Y can also make the sound I like in sky. A little review on EA. If you need help remembering the EA pattern, here are a couple of pictures and sentences that could help you with that. EA, I see the girl, she's eating. The sentence says, she eats the meat. That next picture is really funny. I see the pattern EA, it's in a different color. That must mean it's a different sound. It is a different sound. It says, eh. The cat has some bread on its head. Here are some words with the pattern you worked on with Ms. Helton last week. I see the keyword picture, EA, eat, on this column. I see the pattern EA. I know it makes the sound E. I'm going to decode and recode this vowel team. I'm going to say the sound E, T, and then I'm going to blend it together. Can you try that with me? E, T, eat. Now let's read the rest of these words together. Eat, read. Each, beach. Dream. Eat, treat. Let's look at the next column. I know I need to identify the vowel pattern here. It looks the same, but I see a different picture at the top of the column. It's going to make a different sound. It is going to make the sound eh. Let's sound out this word together. Head. Are you ready to read the rest of those words with me? Bread, bread. Breath. Red. I see that word in both columns. That word would be a tricky word. You would have to read it in the sentence to see which way it makes sense. Now let's look at this vowel pattern. I see consonant Y. I see that funny elf. He is in the sky. I also know his name is Buddy. My sentence says, I see Buddy in the sky. That could help me remember this vowel pattern. Another way that I can remember this vowel pattern is I know that if a single syllable word ends with the letter Y, it is going to make the sound I. Let's look at that first word. I see the vowel Y. It is a single syllable word. So when I sound it out, I'm going to say I. Try. Can you try that with me? I. Try. I see another word beside the word try. There's another rule that we're going to talk about today. When I have a word that ends in Y, and I want to add a suffix like ed, I have to change the Y to an I, like I did here, and add the suffix ed. Now I have the word tried. Let's try another one. I see the vowel Y. I cry. I remember the rule. If I have Y, I change it to I and add the suffix ed here. Now I have the word cried. Our next set of words is underneath the emoji laughing because something is funny. If a word has two syllables, then the Y will make the sound of E. I see in this word a vowel here. The U says That's my first syllable. My next syllable, the Y is saying E. When I sound it out, I'm going to say for U. Y is going to say E. Let's try that. E. Puppy. The same rule applies here when I want to add a suffix to the end of a word that has Y. I change the Y to an I and add my suffix. Here, my suffix is ES. Let's sound out this word. Puppies. Let's keep going and try some more. We might see these words in our story today. U, Y, E. B, N, E. Here I have a U, change the Y into an I, add my suffix ES. Now I have B, N, E, S, bunnies. Here's our last word. A is saying the sound of A. Y is saying the sound of E. Let's sound it out. B, A, B, E. Baby. And our last word. My A is still saying the long vowel sound A. I changed my Y into an I, you're right, and added my suffix ES. And my new word is B-A-B-E's, babies. Great job sounding out those words with me. Now here are some more words that we would see in our text today. These are high frequency words. You have seen and may already know them. It is important to reread in order to grow our reading brain. We're going to read these 3 times. First, I will read the words for you. Then we will read the words together. Last, I will let you read the words all by yourself. Listen to me as I read the words first. Colors, draw, drew, great, over, show, and happy. Let's read those together now. Are you ready? Colors, draw, drew, great, over, show, happy. Awesome work. Are you ready to read those all on your own? Here we go. Great job reading those words, guys. Now I think we're ready to read our text. This is our I Can Read story. You may have seen this last week with Mrs. Helton. Today we're going to look for some different things in this text. I will underline words with our pattern. Our sight words are already highlighted in yellow. Are you ready to read? If you're ready, read it with me. Sunday, we will put on this great show. Jean will draw a sign and hang it up over her gate. Neil drew a stage set with many colors. This show will star my puppies and Jean's bunnies. Who are going to be the stars of the show? That's right, the puppies and Jean's bunnies. Those words have that pattern, changing the Y to an I and adding the suffix. Let's keep reading. Jean has tried teaching her bunnies to hop. Why is Jean teaching her bunnies to hop? That's right, they're going to put on a great show. Wouldn't it be neat to see those bunnies hopping? Let's read our last part of the story. My puppies bumped heads when they tried to play dead. Why does the author tell us that the puppies bumped heads? Is that something silly that sometimes happens in stories? You're right, it is. And then the last sentence says, this will be fun. I want to remind you all what to do to practice being a fluent reader. Fluent readers do a few things. First, they read smoothly. It sounds like your speaking voice. Fluent readers also read accurately. That means you read each word correctly. Did we do that in the story? Yes, you're right, we did. Fluent readers read with expression according to what the words and the punctuation in the text say. And if you have this text in front of you, you can take time to practice at home reading it every day. You could read it to yourself. You could read it to a parent or a family member, maybe a sibling, or even a stuffed animal. Please use this text each day to practice being a more fluent reader. Now, we have a mystery to solve again today. A sleuth hound, do you remember? A sleuth hound is someone that looks for clues to try to help with a mystery. I could be the super sleuth and you could be the sleuth hound. Are you ready to help me? Dear Junior Sleuth Hound, mysteries are all around. There could be a mystery on your playground. There could be a mystery in a faraway land. There could be mysteries between the pages of this book. So what do you do to solve a mystery? Become a sleuth hound. Look for clues. Ask interesting questions. Then put all the pieces together and prove your answers. This book gives you a chance to practice skills that sleuths use. As you read this book, use super sleuth steps to find answers to some really big questions. Good luck. And as I see here, there are some tools that a sleuth might use to help solve a mystery. They may take pictures so that they could remember what they saw. That makes me think of how we could take notes on what we're reading. Keys could unlock doors, flashlights could highlight important things, and a compass could show them the right way. Our super sleuth steps are look for clues. Look back through the text and pictures. What do they tell you? Write or draw what you learn. It will help you remember. Look for important ideas and try to put the clues together. Ask questions. Super sleuths ask great questions. Be curious. Try to find out more. Make your case. Look at all the clues and summarize what you know. Use what you learn and already know to think of your own ideas. Tell what you think. And prove it. Show what you have learned. Work with others and share the adventure. Let's get started. When I think of treasures, I think of things that are important to me. How can a story be a treasure? Do you enjoy hearing stories over and over again? Have you heard a story so many times that you could tell it just by remembering it? Does it always make you happy? Does it teach you a lesson? Is it something that makes your family happy to read it over and over again? Today, we're going to read something that I know you may have already read this before, and maybe you remember reading it last week. I know as a first grade teacher that rereading a text, reading a story again, makes you smarter. It works your reading brain and helps you become a stronger and more fluent reader, which is a big goal in first grade. Today, we're going to reread The Shoemaker and the Elves. Our purpose for reading today is to be able to answer this question. Why did the shoemaker and his wife make clothes and shoes for the elves? Last week, you broke down each paragraph with a purpose for reading in each one. Today, we have one question that we are trying to answer. We're going to read the whole story and look for clues so we can answer this question in writing. If you have paper, you might want to write down some of these notes as I'm reading the story. I'm going to underline parts of the story that I think are important, that would be good details in my writing. If I was at school, I would use chart paper to write down those ideas. So if you have paper, go ahead and get out paper and pencil or pen, and you can get ready and follow along with me as I point out important details from the shoemaker and the elves. Once upon a time, there was a shoemaker. He worked hard, but he and his wife kept getting poorer. I think that's going to be something important I need to remember as to why the shoemaker and his wife made clothes and shoes for the elves. They were poor, so why did they do that for the elves? Let's keep reading. Finally, the shoemaker cut out his last bits of leather. He went to bed. He would sew the shoes in the morning. The next day, he found a beautiful pair of black shoes. Who had made them? The shoemaker sold the shoes. He bought more leather and cut it out. The next day, he found 2 pairs of shoes. So he was poorer. He found some beautiful black shoes someone had made, and he was able to sell them. Those are 3 important details I want to make sure I remember when I'm ready to answer my question. Let's look on to the next page and keep reading. Each day, new shoes appeared. Who made them? One night, the shoemaker hid. At midnight, 2 barefoot and ragged elves came in. So all along we've been wondering who was making the shoes he was able to sell. Each day new shoes appeared, and he learned it was 2 elves. But not just 2 elves. They were barefoot. They didn't have on shoes, and they were ragged. That must mean their clothes didn't look so good. Let's keep going and see what happens now. They cheerfully made shoes on the square work table. What does they refer to in this sentence? That's right, they refers to the elves. The elves were cheerful when they made the shoes. They were happy to help out the shoemaker and his wife. The next day, the shoemaker made 2 tiny pairs of green shoes. I remember hearing that in the question, why did he make the shoes? I'm going to keep reading. His wife sewed 2 little suits. So sounds like they're going to return the kindness of the elves. And let's finish reading. That night, they hid and saw the elves sneak in. The elves were delighted. They dressed up and danced. Then they left and never returned. But the shoemaker and his wife lived happily ever after. Wow. Did you see all the notes that I made in the story? Those are going to help me when I'm ready to answer the question, look for clues. Why did the shoemaker and his wife make clothes and shoes for the elves? You may have written about this last week. Maybe you haven't had a chance to write about it yet. Are you ready to see what an example of a writing could look like? Before we look at that, let's think about what you need to be successful when writing. We need a topic sentence, details from the text, and a sense of closure. So now are you ready to see an example? Here we go. Here is an example of what a writing could look like if you had answered the question. Now, does yours have to look exactly like mine? No, it does not. But I wanted you to see how I could make sure to include a topic, details, and an end. Let's talk about the topic. I wanted to think of who was I writing about? The shoemaker and his wife. What did they do? They made clothes and shoes for the helpful elves. I also wanted to make sure that I was using the question to help me in the topic sentence, so I knew I was answering it correctly. Now, I took the details and made my own sentences. I actually made 3 detail sentences. In first grade, we're only looking for you to have 2. But here is my example. The shoemaker and his wife were poor. The elves helped them by making shoes that they could sell. When the shoemaker saw the elves, he noticed they were barefoot and ragged. I wanted to make sure to point out that he and his wife were poor and that they were helped by the elves and wanted to return that kindness. And that's how I finished it at the end. I said, this is why he and his wife made clothes and shoes for the elves. That sense of closure wraps it up and helps me make sure to think about whether I answered the question or not. So let's go back and I'm going to read the entire answer with my question. Why did the shoemaker and his wife make clothes and shoes for the elves? The shoemaker and his wife made clothes and shoes for the helpful elves. The shoemaker and his wife were poor. The elves helped them by making shoes that they could sell. When the shoemaker saw the elves, he noticed they were barefoot and ragged. This is why he and his wife made clothes and shoes for the elves. And again, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. This is just an example of how you could have answered that question. So let's review. what did we do today? We learned how to read like a sleuth. We also worked on some phonics to help us with our reading. We read The Shoemaker and the Elves. We discussed why the shoemaker and his wife make clothes and shoes for the elves. Our task was the Look for Clues section. Can you answer the question and write about it? Think you're up for a challenge? Did you answer the question yet? If you haven't answered the question yet, can you answer the question? Why did the shoemaker and his wife make shoes and clothes for the elves? Go back and check your writing. Make sure you have these things: a topic sentence, details from the text, and a sense of closure. I want to thank each and every one of you so much for working with me today. I hope you've learned something today and had a little fun too. Thanks. Bye-bye.